let's dive a little deeper into like how do you construct a song?
Yeah.
How do you go about thinking about the structure? Like how do you go? What's the difference between a verse and a chorus and a bridge? How do you use these? How many do you have? What's the point of these different sections?
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. How many hours do you have? But no,
I can talk about it all day. So
that's true. But to me, at the highest of high levels, an important way to look at it is, I call it song building instead of songwriting. It's just a helpful way for me to think through songwriting, because sometimes it's easy to get overwhelmed with just like, I need to write a song. But like we all know that writing a song is comprised of many different parts. So song building is about deconstructing it into the different parts and then writing those parts. So for instance, the vertical layers of a song at its most basic are going to be, you have your chord progression or your harmony, whatever word you want to use for it, right? Basically all your music that is not your melody. And then you have your melody, and then you have your lyrics. Those are the three core elements of a song. Of course, is a song with lyrics, but usually when we talk about songwriting, it implies a song with lyrics. So that's step one, right? Is just understanding, okay, the basic three pieces, building blocks that I have is that my song needs a chord progression, my song needs a melody, and my song needs a set of lyrics. But then, to your point about constructing a song with song sections, there's also the fact that like the verse has a separate melody than the chorus, which leads into like, what's the difference between a chorus, a verse, and a bridge? And the maybe slightly oversimplistic way of looking at it is a chorus is a section that's going to repeat throughout your song, and it has to repeat both lyrically and musically. Now, some choruses don't repeat lyrically. They actually change lyrics every time. I'm a big fan of Five for Fighting. He very often will change his lyrics in the chorus. But generally speaking, a chorus is going to be always the same chord progression and the same melody by definition, really. And then usually it's also going to have the same lyrics. Also, depending on the definition you look at, it's usually at a high level, a chorus is usually going to be a song section that repeats lyrically, musically. So the chord progression is going to be the same, the melody is going to be the same, and then usually the lyrics are going to be the same. Some break outside of this. I'm a big fan of Five for Fighting, who does break outside of this. But most choruses tend to repeat everything. The lyrics are the same, music is the same. And then a verse is usually a section that by definition is going to have the same chord progression and the same melody, or very similar melody, but the lyrics are going to change every time. And usually the verse is where you're telling the story, and the chorus is going to be the main central idea of the song. And very often too, the chorus, almost by definition, is going to be the musical peak of the song, where in the vast majority of songs, the most exciting part of the song, the part of the song that feels biggest, should be the chorus. There can be exceptions to this, but again, in 99% of the cases, the chorus is your musical highlight.
So how do you do that? How do you make the chorus the highlight?
Yeah. One of the easiest hacks, I think, is just having your melody be higher. The vast majority
in the octave range, right? The frequency range.
Yeah. So just in pitch being higher, and it doesn't have to be a ton higher. I probably overdo it sometimes with going up by a ton.
Me too.
I mean, partially because I like that. I like the transition from something that is, I really like the feeling of a small verse and then an explosive chorus, because really how big something feels is largely based on relatively where it came from. It's the whole, at the end of The Dark Knight, you're not thinking, oh, like Batman's only saving Gotham, he's not saving the universe. You don't think that. It still feels big and momentous, even though it's just Gotham City and two boats.
Right, because that is the whole world. So
that is the whole world that's relevant in that context. So you don't need, the whole Avengers literally saving the universe. And in fact, that gets boring, right? If it just keeps happening, you become desensitized to it.
I've gotten bored of it long ago.
I've been bored of it for a while too.
But that's really good.
I'm like, thank God we can just be done.
But I didn't even watch that, but that's really good because so the key to writing better choruses could actually lie in writing better verses that set up the chorus.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, keeping in mind how to connect one song section to another is
What's a
something really
pre-chorus
important.
though?
Yeah, so pre-chorus by definition is going to be something that leads into a chorus, right? Sometimes I say this and it may seem obvious, but it's not a post verse, right? It's called a pre-chorus for a reason. So it's not something that belongs to the verse. It's something that fundamentally belongs to the
Do
chorus.
you use the same chords as you would in the chorus, or do you use different chords?
No, definitely. So musically, if you want like a really easy hack, you're trying to write a pre-chorus right now, it's not working, and you want to know what do I do? Just give me the answer. Obviously, there's many ways to write a pre-chorus, but two big tips: don't use the one chord in your pre-chorus. And there's several reasons for this, but if you don't know what a one chord is, basically whatever the key of your song is, it's the same chord that shares that name. So if your song is in C major, the one chord is C major. If it's D minor, the one chord is D minor, G major, etc. Usually, the one chord is going to be featured in your chorus. And the one chord, whether it is or is not featured in your chorus, it probably is, but is going to be the center of gravity of your song. So that's why when you come to the end of a song and it feels really resolved at the end, it's like, oh, this is clearly the end of the song. Very often it's because they're utilizing the one chord. That's where the song comes to rest. That's where it feels resolved. And it also is a great way to communicate, hey, this is the main point. So very often a chorus, because the main point of the song, will utilize that one chord to be like, this is the main point of the song. And that's a part of a way to make your chorus interesting. But in a pre-chorus, avoid using the one chord, because then it makes clear this pre-chorus is not the destination. It's the road to the destination, which is the chorus. So if you just want like an easy answer of a simple chord progression to maybe use your 4 chord and your 5 chord, maybe your 6 chord. You can do 4-5, 4-5, something like that, which again, let's take C major in case you don't know what 4 or 5 means. It's really just counting up scale degrees. So C major is made up of the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, no sharps or flats. So a 1 chord is C, a 2 chord would be D, a 3 chord would be E, right? So an F major chord is going to be your 4 chord, and then a G major chord is going to be your 5 chord in the context of C major. So doing a progression where if the beginning of your chorus starts on that C major chord, a great way to make that chorus explode is to have your pre-chorus be like the 4 chords, so F major, G major, F major, G major, C major, and then for the beginning of the chorus. And then that will almost certainly make it sound like, oh, this is the main point of the song. And actually, just a little bit more on that. You can use this hack in other ways too, right? So there was a song I wrote where the main point of the song actually wasn't in the chorus. The main point of the song was in a song section that I call a finale. It's basically a very specific type of coda section. So the main point was just at the end of the song. And I communicated that the chorus wasn't the main point by purposefully not having a 1 chord in the chorus. But the beginning of that finale section was with the 1 chord. So that you sort of had this feeling the whole song, like, it feels like the chorus, but it doesn't feel like the main point. It feels like it's going somewhere. It's not in destination. But then when the finale comes, it's like, oh, this is the main point. So just understanding a 1 chord and then off of that, a 5 chord can be really important, because a 5 chord is what most badly wants to go to a 1 chord. So in C major, your G major chord most badly wants to go to the 1 chord, the C major chord. So making use of knowing that is actually an example of why music theory is super useful, because you can utilize that in any key you write a song in. So in D major, you understand, oh, A major is the chord that really wants to go to a D major. And you can use that to either give people what their ears want or purposefully not give them what their ears want. So like a great way to go into a bridge, right, is you end your chorus on a 5 chord and people are expecting it to go to the 1, and instead you go into your bridge, boom, minor 6 chord, and that will feel surprising to them, which is a great thing to keep in mind when writing song sections. I know that was a lot, but
no, that was
just a little bit on the importance of theory.
I'm gonna go back and watch this myself so I can apply this. I definitely want to try that, all that, but that was really interesting. You said the finale, which was a special kind of coda.
Yeah.
And I could be wrong, but a coda is just basically when you repeat the chorus, right? At the end? Or is it different? Is it more than that?
So So coda is a weird thing because some people use it as a name for a song section, but technically it's really just an icon that you would use in sheet music, which, by the way, sheet music and music theory are completely different. So for anybody who thinks of it, completely different.
Oh, good.
So don't like, I'll be the first in line to say understanding how to read sheet music is totally unimportant to songwriting. And I know how to read sheet music, but totally unimportant, worthless. Music theory, super helpful. But anyway, a coda is really named after the symbol, which really is just at some point in the music, there's going to be a section that just is the end of the song. So often I'll take a hymnal, for example, where you will see the coda in a hymnal very often is just, it changes what the final chord of the final chorus is. So it can be really short. So a coda is not really a song section. It's just like the last part of a song, whether it's a chorus repeated for the last time or an outro or a totally new song section. It's agnostic to that. It has nothing to do with that. It's really just like a concept of this is where the song ends. So a finale is I sort of made it up. It's certainly not a real song section that people would talk about, right? But it sort of came from me wanting to create songs that weren't just all verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, because that kind of gets tiresome. And I thought, like, man, some movies don't always work that way, right? And movies don't always have the same exact arc every time either. So why should our songs all fit the same arc? And also, like, the arc of a song is not the same as a movie in a lot of instances. But so really, a finale, the idea came from Journey's "Don't Stop Believin'." So probably most people listening know this, but the part we all know and the part that you probably think of as the chorus actually only happens at the end of the song. The "Don't Stop Believin', hold on to that feeling," that does not happen at all in the song until the end of the song. Now, it repeats at the end of the song, but once it gets to the "Don't Stop Believin'" part, the next thing that happens besides it repeating is a fade out. So the idea for a finale kind of came from that, where it's like, wait a second, the whole song sort of built to this final conclusion, and people call that a chorus, but I would argue by definition it's not the chorus. And the Strangers, Streetlights, whatever, the section that actually repeats throughout the song, you have verse, chorus, and then I would argue what I would call a finale is that "Don't Stop Believin' part. And I can get into the nitty gritty as to why that's my argument, but at a high level, it's
do
really
a whole video just breaking down "Don't Stop Believing."
I think I have, actually.
Oh, okay.
But because some people would argue with me, and I'm like, look, because if you go to like lyric websites, they'll call the section a pre-chorus, which is the section that actually repeats. I forget the lyrics, but basically, by definition, a pre-chorus has to lead into a chorus. That's what it does. And
so it can't technically be a pre-chorus.
Yeah, so it just
kind of is a
pre-chorus. And it is a pre-chorus only in that it is only a pre-chorus if you accept the premise that the "Don't Stop Believin', hold on to that feeling" part is a chorus. And I would argue by definition it's not, because it doesn't happen throughout the song. It only happens at the end of the song. So to me, this was like a totally different song construction that I think is underutilized, because I think it works great. So really, to me, it evolved eventually into a finale where that is not precisely a finale, I guess, the way I now define it. But to me, it's sort of, if you, this is a little reductionist, but kind of true. A chorus is a part that repeats musically and lyrically. A verse is a part that repeats musically, but lyrics change. The bridge is a part, and also the chorus is usually the climax of the music of the song. The bridge is very often a section that happens once and only once, unless it's a worship song. But for every other genre on the planet, a bridge happens once and only once. It doesn't repeat musically. It doesn't repeat lyrically. It's one and done, which usually is a bad thing in sports, but it's a good thing in a song, I think. So that's sort of by definition what those things are. There are some exceptions to that, but that's generally what those things are. So a finale to me is kind of a combination of elements of a chorus and a bridge. So like a bridge, it happens only once. It's one and done. And like a chorus, it is the musical climax of the song. Also, like a bridge, I would argue a lot of times the musical climax is the chorus, but choruses tend to not be story driven, they're idea driven, right? They talk about the central idea of the song. They're not really related to the specific story that you might be telling. The bridge very often will represent the climax of the story, though, because taking a basic verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, the way I like to see it is you have a 3-act story structure: verse 1, verse 2, bridge. That's your story structure, with your main idea being in the chorus. So taking that and applying it to the finale. So the finale ends up being a song section that happens once and only once, like a bridge. It is the lyrical climax or story climax, if it's a story-driven song, like a bridge. But it's the actual highlight of the song musically, like a chorus. And then it just happens at the end and it's done. Which really leads into, all these rules. I think sometimes we accept that, you verse, chorus. You don't have to do that, right? Bohemian Rhapsody doesn't have song sections at all, really. It just has like an A section, a B section, a C section, and a D section. There are no verses in Bohemian Rhapsody. There's no chorus in Bohemian Rhapsody. Great song. And I'm not saying go copy that, but and Don't Stop Believin' is another example, right? It is not a standard song structure. People just don't notice. But you can get away with interesting, different song structures. And that's just another layer to things you can get creative about. There's more things to get creative about in songwriting than just, writing a better melody, writing better lyrics, and writing a better chord progression. Within all of those things, there are way more layers of things that you can concentrate on getting better at. And there's things that you can make more interesting, right? Like even a chord progression is a little bit reductionist. Like if you have an awesome catchy bass line, is that a part of the chord progression? Like, yeah, but it's also kind of separate, right? Or a guitar hook, where does that fit in? Because that's not really a chord progression either. But we haven't even talked about that, right? Because the core parts of a song are just chord progression and a melody and a lyric. So anyway, the finale was just based off of exploring with, what else can we do to take songwriting in different directions? How can we break outside of the mold in a subtle way? Because I think, just to wrap this up, I think part of what makes the finale concept so powerful in Don't Stop Believin' is nobody notices, right? It is different, but nobody notices that it's different, which to me is a great thing, because there's definitely music that it just feels like it's trying to be different, and you can just hear that it's like it is in love with its own brilliance. They're like, look, we're doing a 10/7 time signature. Aren't we awesome? And it's okay if you like that kind of music, right? But for me, that doesn't do it for me. It just feels like you just wrote this song to show off what a good instrumentalist you are. But in the case of Don't Stop Believin', right, I'm sure Journey didn't even really think about how what they were doing was different as far as the song structure. But it works really well. And we can do the same thing in our songs.
Wow, that's really deep. So
Yeah.
knowing all the different sections, all the different uses for them, but then also realizing that you can also break those rules and create different styles of music, different structures of songs that kind of break out of the mold.
Yeah, especially when you're more experienced. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it right away, but yeah.
Hey, if you want more help producing professional quality music from home or finishing more music faster, then be sure to grab my rapid song finishing checklist in the description below, or go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/mixing checklist. Inside, you'll discover the proven step-by-step mixing system for creating radio-worthy music from home. You'll discover this one crucial step that you need to do before mixing to get high-quality mixes. You'll learn a proven step-by-step mixing order, so you'll know what to do first, second, and third, so you're not caught chasing your tail and constantly remixing and maybe making things sound worse over time. And you'll discover how to quickly master your music for consistent radio-worthy results every time. Again, this is all inside of a free guide you can get in the description below, or go to orpheusaudioacademy.com/mixing checklist. That being said, if you want some more awesome music production tips and tricks, then be sure to click the video on the screen right now. That'll take you to another great video to help you make better music. With that, have an awesome day and keep creating.